It's getting cold, man. It's only like beginning of September and we're already wearing jackets and sweaters. What's going on? Today, in this video, we are gonna be talking about how to level up yourself as a man in 5 simple steps. Or let me put it this way, how to level up yourself as a man with 5 skills. Now, these are the things that I have realized to be very true when it comes to men over the years. And I think I can say that I have tried my best to work on some of them. I might not possess all of them, but still, I think they are very, very helpful. And I firmly believe we have to work on them to become a high value man. Not gonna waste your time, let's jump right into the first one. Now, the very first one's gonna be validate yourself internally. If you want to achieve something, is it because of validation from other people? Do you want to improve because you want to get some approval from other people? Or do you want to do it for you? Are you okay with you being yourself, or are you changing yourself to fit into some groups, fit into some agenda or status quo? Do you do this to impress people, or do you do this because you actually want this? Now that's when this is really crucial for you, or for us, or for men, for generally, for everybody to understand that when you validate yourself internally, you don't really need any opinion from other people to do whatever the fuck you want to do. Like if you just want to go outside and wear a strange cap, do you actually care about what people are going to think about you? I don't know, you tell me. But if you're okay with you validating yourself, you shouldn't really care about what people might say about you. Hope this makes sense. Because when you get to some point, you realize, okay, am I doing this to get some type of approval? Didn't I get some attention as a child? What's the reason? And if you dig really deep, that might be one of the reasons why you always try hard to impress people. Now, what you should do to become a high value man is to learn to validate yourself internally. You have to be okay with giving yourself your mark, your rating and whatever. That's what's called validating yourself internally. And that's one of the most crucial skills to level up yourself as a man. That's number 1. Number 2 is gonna be learn to be assertive instead of aggressive. Now, I remember when I was like a teenager and I was coming across this self-improvement men's channel, I used to hear these words like alpha male and beta male and all this stuff. Now, as much as I hate to use these words, I think I have to use them for the sake of this video. Now, if you're an alpha male, probably what people think is alpha male is a guy who is strong, he smells like success, he has money, he's tossing the chairs around the room, like he is very loud, he is active. And oftentimes those aggressive, bulky guys come across as alpha males. But the fact of the matter is, if you're a true alpha male, you don't really need to show off those stuff for other people, because what we talked about, validation, you are seeking for internal validation, not external. If you're seeking for validation from an external source, that means you're actually not an alpha male, but you're just trying to get attention from people because you're insecure. Now, what I'm trying to get at is, instead of trying to be aggressive and being emotional and showing aggressive emotions and being, I don't know, some type of a jerk or asshole, what you should do instead is try to be assertive. Stay on your ground, be grounded. But that's not the same as being aggressive. Assertive means I'm okay with myself and I'm okay with being in the position that I am right now, but I don't have to impose my emotions or presence or my dominance over other people, because that's just a bit insecure and that's aggressive. But what I'm trying to do instead is to be assertive. Jumping on to the next one, number 3, to level up yourself as a man, the next thing that you should do is to learn to tell stories. Now, this one is a huge one. I have to admit that I didn't really know how to tell stories until some point of my life. I started getting all these crazy adventures from my life, and I was like, okay, how can I actually tell stories in an interesting way that people can listen, that people want to listen to this? And I think I've cracked the code at least. I might not be the best storyteller, but still I know a couple of stuff. And you know what? I'm gonna share it with you. The number 1 thing you should do to learn, or let's say to tell interesting stories is, well, obviously you have to have a story. You have to have an adventure. Instead of sitting on your ass, on your couch all day, why don't you go out and go to the mountains and have some adventure, right? If you have adventures and stories, you can tell stories, as obvious as it sounds. Okay, that's number 1, but number 2 is the most important thing. You have to have a punchline. Without a punchline, there's really no story. Yes, you can talk about you going to the ocean and hitchhiking and meeting some friends and whatever, but who really wants to listen when there's no cracker, there's no punchline? The same thing goes to jokes. Like, why do people listen to jokes or go to stand-up comedy? Because there's gonna be a punchline that will make people laugh. It's gonna be like a climax, as weird as it sounds. So when people are waiting for this climax, or let's call it prestige, if they don't get it, they will be very, very much dissatisfied. They'll be like, okay, why did I even listen to you talking to this shit? Always have a punchline. It can be a crazy story, it can be a funny story, anything that makes people anticipate something and look forward. And the third thing would be try to keep it short or as simple as possible. Obviously, when you are telling stories, you want to include a lot of details and you don't really want to miss some extra stuff or details from the stories because you think it's gonna enhance the story and make it rich. But the truth is, we don't really have that much attention span. And what I'm trying to say is, people get bored easily. So when you're trying to tell stories, have a punchline and keep it simple. Number 4, to level up yourself as a man, is to give back or contribute or help. If you're getting more, let's say, you're more successful than you were a year ago, or you have actually changed your situation and you earn some money in comparison to you 2 years or 5 years ago. So now you're doing pretty good. But instead of focusing on yourself all the time, why don't you give back to the community? Why don't you give back to people? Why don't you help other people? A high value person doesn't really stack everything to himself or herself. He or she always tries to give back to the community and be very generous. Because guess what? What you give is what you have. If you give out good energy, if you give out money or help, it's probably safe to say that you're very much in control, you're very much doing good, and it just gives out good signals about you. Why don't you go there and volunteer or do some charity work? The things that actually help the community or benefit other people. To be a high value man, you can help other people, be generous and not be too self-centered. And the last thing that I believe you should do to become a high value man or level up as a man is to train yourself to not care what other people think of you. Now this might sound a bit similar to the very first point that I made in this video, but also this is a bit different. When you are in some certain social circles, let's say, a lot of times people are going to be looking to find or identify a leader, the person who can take charge and take responsibility for the situation. Now in those type of moments, what I have noticed for myself is sometimes I wait for approval from other people in order to make my decisions. And yes, you should consider other people's opinions. That's kind of democracy, but at the same time that's also like considering other people and respecting their opinions. However, that's a bit different. Now, what we're talking about is if you want to make a choice, but there are going to be people around you, will you actually stick to your own opinion and to your own belief and to your own priorities? Or will you wait there for other people to say what you should do? Now, this might sound a bit complicated, but it's really not. What I'm trying to say is, whatever you do, if you just put some confidence, if you just put some self-esteem, and I don't give a fuck type of vibe, people are going to be looking at you, okay, this guy, he has it all figured out. He is confident, he is self-reliant. Now, how do you actually train yourself to not care what other people think of you? Well, for one, you could wear whatever the fuck you want to wear. For 2, you could say whatever you want to say. For 3, you might have some boundaries and some principles that you abide by in your life and you must follow to do anything in your life. Could it be dating, could it be work, business, anything that requires your character. When you train yourself to not really care what other people think of you, that means you are in control of your life. That's one of the most difficult, but at the same time, important habits that I have developed over the years. Now, I'm not saying I have it all figured out, but if I compare myself to my 18 or 17-year-old self, it's gonna be a pretty big difference. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna see you in the next one. Cheers.